By the way, this is not to be glib, but is it snowing yet in Buffalo? When's snow hitting Buffalo, Richie?
Give it about a week, and we should have a couple feet on the ground.
I was talking today. I said, NBA players get guaranteed contracts, less violence, longer career, make money with shoes. NFL guys, they don't. You guys, careers are shorter. And so, it's a different lifestyle. You know a lot of NBA guys. You know a lot of football guys. But the Derek Carr injury is a prime example. I've always felt that in football, there's almost a responsibility to play hurt. It's unspoken. Go back to your career, where how many times have you laced them up, Richie, knowing that you got a brotherhood on that offensive line and you knew you weren't 100%?
It happens all the time. Very rarely do you go through a 16-game season without a bump or a bruise, and you have to put it on. You have to put on for your brothers.
Your life is better now.
There's only 16 opportunities.
Here's another example of that. This time it's
so nicked up, banged up. You got to put that stuff to the side and go out there and get the win for the team.
It's interesting, Richie. We're looking at a time right now with all this stuff, and there's protest and anthem, and we all want to watch football, and you want to play football. I mean, you're a guy that gets in there. You're a lunch pail guy. You go to work. You grind. And Buffalo's a hard-working grind city. Do you ever worry that all this anthem stuff could rip locker rooms apart, your locker room apart? Are guys talking about that? I mean, is it possible? Do you fear it?
I don't see it ripping our locker room apart. I think from ownership to coaching down to players, when this thing went down, we had a direct line of communication. We all talked to one another. And, we kind of all came together, and we decided that out of unity and peace of the team and love from the team, that we were all going to embrace one another and each individual's right to protest. And I think just having that clear line of communication and speaking about it beforehand is what's really going to kind of fortify us and rally the troops and not divide us in the long run.
I said something the other day. You played in Miami, not at the same time as this offensive line coach who got in trouble. And I said, Richie, there's a reason you've never seen the TV show Real Wives of Green Bay or CSI Buffalo. It's a lot easier to get in trouble in Miami and Atlanta and Los Angeles and New York than it is Wisconsin. You're in a city right now. So when I saw that Miami story, I thought, God, the Dolphins have every year there's something with the Dolphins. Tell me your life experience. Miami, Buffalo. Is there a tangible difference as a player of more about football, colder weather, indoors? I mean, when you saw the Miami story, what was your takeaway?
That was a crazy story. That was one of those things that makes you kind of scratch your head and look at the phone twice. Like, is this really happening? It's like, that was nuts. But there's a very distinct difference from living in Miami, which is warm weather, lots to do, lots of distraction, beaches, clubs, amusement parks. Then you have Buffalo, New York, which is kind of the other end of the spectrum. Very cold, not a lot to do. You're kind of stuck inside all winter. And definitely two different unique environments to play football. I kind of prefer playing in Buffalo away from the distraction, away from all the stuff that kind of pulls at your energy during the season.
So Tom Brady has taken more hits this year, and you of course, are going to play Brady twice. Do you have a theory on, I mean, I've been watching this guy for 15 years. I've never seen him tagged more. What's the reason to you?
The reason to me is him missing Julian Edelman and Rob Gronkowski. Those guys are his security blanket, and in tough times, he knows that those guys are going to be open. So without those guys on the field, I think he's holding the ball a little bit longer. That's forcing him to take those unnecessary hits.
Yeah. It's interesting. You have a mobile quarterback in Tyrod Taylor. And I'm watching football, Richie, and I got Deshaun Watson can run, and Trubisky can run, and Dak can move, and Tyrod, and Andrew Luck's a mover. In your years in the NFL, we're seeing something happening here, Richie. Mobility, not necessarily a running quarterback, but mobility is being Carson Wentz, Cam Newton play tonight. Is it different blocking for a pocket guy than a running guy like Tyrod, Deshaun, Dak? I mean, do you sense it's different? Does it feel different? Do your assignments change?
Well, I think what we're seeing is the evolution of the quarterback. Guys that can make things happen with their feet, not only their arms. So we always know when things break down late in a play, Tyrod can make a move and pick up the first down with his feet. So nothing changes for us on the front end. We're trying to block as long as possible so that he can throw the ball down the field. But sometimes those guys down the field are covered, and he needs to take off, make a play with his feet, and set us up with a new set of downs.
And Richie, finally, the Bills have played very well. They bring in Sean McDermott, competitive, tough guy. You have been around. We were talking to start our show. Joe Girardi manages the Yankees, and Joe's got that square chin. And I said he's like the stepdad you don't want to tick off. Joe Girardi looks tough. And then you got Ben McAdoo on the sidelines in New York, and the players are bailing. And it's weird about leadership that I don't know what it is exactly. If you had a pyramid chart on leadership, it's obviously working in Buffalo. I said some of it's presence, some of it's intelligence. In your years of all football coaching, what do you relate to as an alpha male player? What connects with you? What works for you and motivates you from a coach?
I think Coach McDermott's whole mindset of he's a competitor. He wants to have tough people around him. And that really speaks to me because that's what I bring every day. I bring consistency, toughness, energy, and the stuff that Coach McDermott is preaching and he's been getting us to think about week in and week out is, being those grinders, being that physical football team that you go in and you slug it out with for 4 quarters. And that's been our recipe for success through the first 5 games. We're sitting at 3-2, tied for first place with the New England Patriots. And, I'm just excited about this team moving forward because we're really buying into Coach McDermott's message, and we're really starting to play together as one.
And finally, Richie, you kind of reinvented yourself. Joe Girardi admitted the other day, he said he had a bad night managing, and he said, I just told the team I screwed up. And he owned it. And everybody forgave Joe. In fact, it probably motivated the players. And I see it on social media all the time. It's politicians. It's CEOs. It's an offensive line coach for Miami. It's a pro golfer, where your life can explode because something happens in your life, and you were in that blender. You were in that for about 6 months. You were in the blender in America, and you came out of it. You've reinvented yourself. You now go on TV. You're now an elite offensive lineman. Take me to the darkest moments and when you came to terms with, man, this is not fun. Because you obviously own some stuff, Richie. You made decisions. You said, man, I got to change this life. I'm seeing it every day from somebody. What did you do?
The one thing about my scenario was I was right in the middle of it for 6 months. It was hot and it was heavy and things were happening fast. And the lowest point to me was just the monotony of preparing for an NFL season but not having a team, and going and working out every day and doing all the things I needed to do to set me up for success on the field and not having a team. So that nerve-wracking, that anxious energy, all that time spent worrying about, when I was going to get the next opportunity kind of afforded me the ability to lay out a plan. So when it did happen, I had some clear goals. I wanted to come back. I wanted to reestablish myself as a Pro Bowl offensive lineman, wanted to pursue a career in TV. And now you're just seeing all those things come together.
Yeah. Well, you do great work for us. Anytime you're on the West Coast, we love having you in. And congrats, the Buffalo Bills are a real team. There's Kansas City may be the best team, and Cleveland has its issues. But week to week, you can win and lose every week. It's a ridiculously competitive league. And we're happy for you, Richie, and thanks for stopping by the show.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me, Colin.
You bet, Richie Incognito. Yeah, he was in that blender, that controversy blender for a while. It's tough. Man, it's hard to get out of. Coming up next, I'm going to get to this whole thing about, I said, I don't get, everybody always says trust the process. I believe you tweak the process, and I'll explain that coming up. The company that introduced the world to wedgie-free men's underwear is constantly developing new ways to help guys feel more comfortable. Innovation does not take a day off at Tommy John.